Okay. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Shiur, part of the Mishmar, beautiful Mishmar program of Ahavas Shalom, run by the Vad of the shul. Thank you very much to the president of the shul, Red Rubenstein. Thank you for everybody that came. His father's over here. And okay, let's go. It's a pre-Chanukah Mishmar, a lot of different programs regarding Chanukah. This year of mine, the Ilu Nishmas of Imoyer Menachem ben Akiva, so Bas Moshe, Ruth Bas Shalom, the Fuas, the child Noach Lionel ben Yuli Oriah. Okay, the question is, the shir is quite simple. It's a question with 5/6 answers. The 5 answers, one of them can be split into 2. When I ask the question, hopefully get the answers. When I give you time to ask your questions, you're welcome. So let's go already. Okay, the question is as follows. I think most people here were born in Chutz La'aretz or lived in Chutz La'aretz for a big part of their lives. And you know better than me that there's this annoying thing called Yom Tov Sheini Shel Golius. Yeah, the second day Yom Tov. Yeah, it's one good reason to live in Israel is not to have it. Sorry, I hope that wasn't too risque to say. You agree? Thank you. The origin of Yom Tov Sheini, I assume people know, but it's always good to review and revise. And that is in the times of the Gemara, as we know, Rosh Hashanah Daf Yud Ches Amud Aleph. There's a Mishnah. The Kiddush HaChodesh was not something automatic. It was something that was done in Beis Din. Beis Din would decide the actual day of Rosh Chodesh based on the Eidim and the moon and all that. And then the Shluchim, I mean, with all due respect to Chabad, these are other kinds of Shluchim. The Shluchim with messengers would go out of Eretz Yisrael to let the Chutz La'aretz people know what day of the month is it. Because if you lived outside Eretz Yisrael, and your Wi-Fi was kind of funny, back then in times of Beis HaMikdash, then you just don't know what day it is any day of the month. So any day of the month you can manage. What's today? Gimel/Dalet Tammuz. Okay, but if it is a Yom Tov, you have to know when Yom Tov is. So if you're lucky enough to live within a relatively close to Eretz Yisrael, within 2 weeks, the Shluchim would actually go far enough, says the Mishnah in Tainis. Yeah. It took 2 weeks for the Shluchim to arrive in Prat, in the Euphrates. That's where Jews live. The furthest Jewish community outside Eretz Yisrael was there. So within 2 weeks, they managed to get to everybody. But some people, let's say on Pesach, not everybody knew when Pesach is, let alone Rosh Hashanah, because Rosh Hashanah is Rosh Chodesh. So if you live outside Eretz Yisrael, you don't know when Rosh Hashanah is, right? Forget about Rosh Hashanah now. Let's talk about Pesach, Yom Kippur, Pesach, yeah. So you don't know when Yom Kippur is. Why Yom Kippur is one day is also interesting. I'm not discussing it right now. You don't know when Pesach is because you live too far. Yeah, you live 2 weeks away from Eretz Yisrael, and Pesach is 2 weeks after Rosh Chodesh. And therefore, what do? Out of no choice, you play the game both ways. If you lived in the time Beis HaMikdash, you have real suffix. You have real doubt. Is today Yudalid or Tisvav? You don't know if it's Yudalid of Tisvav. Therefore, you celebrate. Yeah, both. Yeah, with both Tezvav and Tetzayit, because maybe Tezvav is really Yudalid, maybe Tetzayit really Tezvav. So you celebrate both days because you're in a real stuff. Others really don't know what day it is. That's a real suffix. And then eventually they established the Luach, they established the proper, as we have, it's all automated technology started already then in the times of the Gemara, in the times of Hillel Lachotam, and he established the Luach already in the times of the Gemara, the way I understood it. Says the Gemara in Beit Adalad Amud Beis, even though people today and already back then living in wherever, London, New York, Paris, or Tokyo, they sounds like a fashion house. Yeah, they know. Yeah, they know where. They know exactly that it's Tesvav when Tesvav Nisan is and when Vav Sivan is. Nevertheless, Minhag V'Aseinu B'Yadeim, the famous line Minhag V'Aseinu B'Yadeinu, people hold of it very much. That's in Beit Adalad Amud Beis, which means Chachamim basically established, we don't care whether you know it or not. At the end of the day, once you have 2 days, that's it. If you live any place geographically, halachically speaking, where people lived and then they had a suffix, even though they don't have a suffix anymore, Beit Adalad Amud Beis, you got to keep the minhag of V'Aseinu B'Yadeinu. The Gemara actually gives a reason why. It's not something we want to, freeze frame time. It's also because you never know what's going to happen in the future. Maybe in future, all of a sudden, there will be new rulings, new things will come, and people will forget the established luach. And therefore, we always keep the Chutz La'aretz people, at bay with 2 days as many of us anybody in. It's important to know that there are two stages to the story. There was a real suffix in the times of the Gemara of Beis Hamikdash, I would say. You're in real suffix if you lived in, I don't know, Baghdad. You really didn't know. Today, if you live in Baghdad, good luck to you. Then you do know, but you still maintain the 2 days of Yom Tov. So far, so good. And the question is the $1 million question, the million candles question. That is, why is it that we don't keep 9 days of Chanukah? Why? Because there's a suffix. Just like you have an extra day of Sukkot, you have an extra day of Pesach, you have an extra day of Shavuot, right? So too, you should have an extra day of Chanukah, or maybe Hanukkah. If you live in Chutz La'aretz, it's Hanukkah. So you have to know, because 8 days have an extra day, because really don't know. Maybe Chav Hei Kislev is really what Chav Dalet Kislev, etc. So you should add an extra day. There are 5/6 answers to answer that. You're attempting an answer. Okay, try. Peretz already gave an answer this morning, and it's true. One of the answers was given, and Peretz just stepped in. Yeah, let's give it a try. Okay, quick, before we go on. Darbanan? Okay, the classical answer, almost knee-jerk reaction. I was preparing to this year already over a week ago, and everyone says, the Rabbanon. Let me ask you a question. Rabbi, the treasurer of the shul, he's a treasure. My question is, you celebrated many seconds Dorim, right? And the second Seder, which is the second Seder is the Rabbanon. Did you eat tomorrow or no? Why did you eat tomorrow? It's the Rabbanon. I thought you're saying the Rabbanon, you don't have to keep the second day. So why do you eat tomorrow on the second day of the second Seder? Okay, let's go. Just the questions to plant ideas in your mind. Tomorrow's not the Raisa, tomorrow today is the Rabbanon. There is an easy answer to that too. I'm just trying to, you're right. Okay, that's it. He's told the show, I can close the computer, go home. The standard answer, Mr. Brown was waiting for that. No. I'm not saying you're wrong. A lot of Rishonim and Achronim actually support what Rabbi was saying. The general standard answer is the Rabbanon, but we have to understand that. We have to understand what's going on in this the Rabbanon exactly. So let's go. Number one, Minchas Chinuch. I'm not being chronological over here. I'm doing this on purpose. Minchas Chinuch is not a Rishon, but I'm starting with Minchas Chinuch. So the Minchas Chinuch is asking Kivyachol, Apikorsis question, who says there are no 9 days? Today there aren't, I know. I lived in Chutz La'aretz also, there were no 9 candles. But maybe in the times of Beis Hamikdash, maybe they did keep an extra day of Chanukah. Says the Minchas Chinuch, yes they did. Says the Minchas Chinuch that in the times of Beis Hamikdash, I'll tell you something even more really throw you off your chair. Yeah, and that is, I'll say later, but in the times of Beis Hamikdash, says Minchas Chinuch, they actually did keep the 9th day. I mean 9 days, no meat, yeah? The 9th day, an extra day of Chanukah. Why? Says Minchas Chinuch like this. There are, as I said, in the times of Beis Hamikdash, yeah, it was a suffix. They didn't know, is it Chavdalid or Chafei? Is it Chavot? What they didn't know the date. I would say, hey, I know, suffix D'Rabbanan L'Kula. So why is Minchas Chinuch saying that when they had a real doubt, real suffix, whether it's on each and every day, they didn't know what's going on, it's a D'Rabbanan. I would say suffix D'Rabbanan L'Kula. And yet says Minchas Chinuch, no, here we don't say suffix D'Rabbanan L'Kula. Why is that? My math is weak, I have to admit, but everybody knows. But let me go through the 8 days of Chanukah. If you want to tell me that the first day of Chanukah, which is Chafei, people in Chutz La'aretz are not sure if it's Chafei or Chavdalid. Yes, that's true. Now, the last day, at least this year, yeah, is the day after Chanukah. Today is Gimel Tevis. This year, check the calendar. Okay. But the people in Chutz La'aretz, we don't know. Maybe it's Zos Chanukah. Maybe it's the 8th day of Chanukah. Right? Because every day there's a suffix. Very nice. Now, if you want to tell me, says Minchas Chinuch, that the last day of Chanukah, the 9th day, will chop it off and say, no, suffix D'Rabbanan L'Kula, leave me alone. 8 days was enough. I'm fat enough from the Sufganiyot. Enough parties with, I don't know, someone bigger. Enough. Yeah, good. 8 days is enough. I don't need the 9th day. Suffix D'Rabbanan L'Kula. Wait a second. On the 9th day, you don't know if it's Chanukah or not Chanukah. Well, the first thing, the same applies to the first day. Think about it. The first day is exactly the same suffix. You don't know if it's Chavdalid or Chafei. So let's be egalitarian, 2021. And just like the 9 days off, the 9th day, so to the first day should be off. Because they're equally suffix. They're equally in doubt. And if you chop off the tail, you'll chop off the head. and then you're going to have a 7-day Chanukah. So besides the fact that it sounds very non-Jewish and crazy, why not? Maybe you should have a 7-day Chanukah. Makara, what happened? Says the Minchas Chinuch, he quotes a Mishnah Lamelech, which quotes a very famous Ran in Psochim. The Ran in Psochim says a big yesod. The Ran in Psochim, the Gemara there in Psochim in Daf something Kuf Gimel, I don't know, says over there, there's a famous question whether Haseva, when you drink the Daled Koises, yeah, are you supposed to be Bahaseva or not? Says the Gemara, I know the 2 of the 4 cups we're supposed to do Bahaseva. Yeah, I'm out of the screen. Yeah. Are you supposed to do Bahaseva? The first 2, when you're getting out of Mitzrayim into freedom, or the last 2 koises, when you're already a free man, a free person, then you sit like a king Bahaseva. So we don't have to do the first 2 or the last 2. Where should the Seva apply? The first 2 or the second 2? The first 2 or the second 2? Well, what do? Last time I checked, I've been religious for 50 years already. Yep. So then, 50 years. Yeah. So then, I think actually previous Gilgal was also. So I've been in many Asdarim, and we always do a Seva in all 4 cups. Frek Daran, why? Safik Darabanan Lakula. Because Dalit Kos is Darabanan, the Seva Darabanan, all Darabanan, Safik Darabanan Lakula. You have a question on the first 2, you have a question on the second 2, finished. Says the Ran, and I'll ask you another question. Purim. All these cities, including Bet Shemesh, according to some opinions, let alone Tveria, many places, there's a question whether the city is a walled city, not a walled city. Many speakers, with the sea, with the archaeological diggings and shilas and stories. So the Frumer people, what do? The first day and the second day, the lane, Maker didn't you have to lane the first one. Why? Let's not lane. Let's assume Purim is Darabanan, which is also a question. Let's assume Purim is Darabanan, because that's what people think. So Purim is Darabanan. So now I don't know if to lane the first day or the second day. Every day is a suffix. I want lane Megillah, no Megillah, less work, a nicer time, just walking around with the tachposit. Says the Ran a big yesod. No, if we have a suffix Darabanan, and if you apply suffix Darabanan in a way that would completely annul the mitzvah or part of a mitzvah, then we don't say Safek Darbanan Lakula. Then we say Chumrah. Big famous yesod of the Ran brought down in the Mishnah Lamelech at the beginning of Hilchas Chanukah Megillah of the Rambam. Get that? In other words, if it means there is no Haseva ever, Ad Kan, Rabbanan did not mean with their nice leniency, trying to be nice to us, Safek Darbanan, they didn't mean to completely cancel a mitzvah or cancel a seva. Therefore, to cancel 2 days of Chanukah and establish a Chanukah of 7 days because you live 2 weeks away from whatever, or 25 days away from Eretz Yisrael, you live in Toronto, and therefore there, no way. You can't say there will be established a Chutzlar Chanukah of 7 days with chopping off the head and chopping off the tail. En kazeh davar. Mimela says the Minchas Chinuch that before we ask why there is no 9th day, there is a 9th day. When? In the times of Beis Hamikdash. Because we don't say Safek Darbanan Lakula if you chop off the whole surah, the whole shtanz of the day, of the Yom Tov. Now, however, says the Minchas Chinuch, nowadays it's different. Nowadays, people all over the world very easily know exactly what the date is, as we said before. And the reason why you have 2 days Pesach, when if you live in, I don't know, where? Madrid, then what? You have 2 days Pesach and another, kids have, 2 days Seder, and then another, kids are 1 extra day of Pesach. The reason is why? Because it's just, we keep things as they are. We're not really besophic. Yeah, it's a Rabbanan establishment. Oh, and here we come to another factor of Takantala of Dinan. When Rabbanan establish a Yom Tov, because really the entire Chanukah is the Rabbanan, right? Chanukah to begin with is just a Rabbanan establishment. I don't like to say invention, yeah? It's a Rabbanan idea. The whole thing started with the Rabbanan. Chanukah is most Rabbanan thing that there is. True? Yeah. Plus, the idea of Yom Tov Sheni nowadays, 2021, is what? The Rabbanan. 2 the Rabbanans, too much. Like Rabbi. Here you are. Very good. That's a Minchas Chinuch. Okay? So back then, there would be an extra day. Today, when it's not a real suffix, just the Rabbanan, 2 the Rabbanans, one on top of the other, we cut off one of them. And therefore, we have the Chanukah, and you don't have the extra day. That's a Minchas Chinuch. Okay. Fine. Very, very good. Excellent question, Mayor. How many candles did you light on the last day? 8, 9? Coming soon. Very good. That's one of the answers has to do with that. Very nice. Everyone's mechaven to a lot of choshva things. Good. But we're not there yet. We're now talking about questions. Now it's time to a little bit of freedom of speech. Anybody? Yeah, you can. Yes. And then we continue. Because there is the last answer that I give is going to be more Hashkafik Hasidish by the Bnei Sofer. That may be more in tune with what you're saying. Answer number 2, quick, before we jump back into the shir. Go ahead, yeah. Let's continue. Let's go. Answer number 2 is really the end of the Minchas Chinuch. So the Abu Darham and the Chidah and the Pri Chodosh, each one in a different way, they all say things that are similar. They all say, Lo Yitrichu Rabbanon. It's a Rabbanon dika thing. Rabbanon want you to be Torah, to go to the hassle, the exertion. Don't exert yourself on another day of Chanukah. It's a tircha. Birkei Yosef the Chidah. Lefi shechanukah the Rabbanon lo hichmiru by kol kach. Like you're saying, basically, Rabbanon plus Rabbanon, one Rabbanon, good enough for us. However, the Birkei Yosef brings the Gemara, which I think disagrees with the Minchas Chinuch. Even within this camp, I think there are two voices. Listen to this unbelievable Gemara. It's a Gemara in Menachos, yeah. Menachos, Daf, I think Sameches, I don't remember. It says over there, when it comes to eating Chodosh, everybody knows that Chodosh in Chutz La'aretz is, well, the Machlokes, if Chodosh in Chutz La'aretz is the Oraisa the Rabbanon, it's read Machlokes, I think the Mishnah even, and there were Amoraim who followed one opinion that Chodosh is the Rabbanon, right? And because Chodesh the Rabbanon, they ate on not, you're allowed to eat Chodesh from when? Already from the second day of Pesach, right? Either or after the the whole day, before that half a day. But the second day of Pesach is when they bring the Omer, and then you can start eating Chodesh, the new wheat, the new grains, the new cereals. Now, if you think in the Gemara it says over there that those Amoraim, Rav Papa and Rav Huna, they would eat Chodesh when already they would eat Chodesh on the third day of Pesach, because they said, well, only the first day of the second day of Chol Hamoed, I mean. They say only one day within Chol Hamoed is Osir. We don't know. We don't know whether each and every day, we don't know. Maybe the next day is the 16th, so I'm not allowed to eat Chodesh. No, Safek D'Rabbanan Lekula. Safek D'Rabbanan Lekula. So it's fine. And those that held that Chodesh is the Oraisa, they said no. They said they kept 2 extra days not eating Chodesh. So, and he compares it to Chanukah. So he would say that back then, if you really believe that it's a Safek D'Rabbanan, he did compare it to Chanukah. It's mashma very strongly from the Chidah that back then you would not keep an extra day of Chanukah. In other words, it's a technical Safek, just like Bechodesh. Yeah, Bechodesh you can't say this thing of I have a tzura of 7 days instead of 8. Mapitam. Bechodesh it's a chumrah. Why not to keep an extra one? Fakert. The Chodesh, the more the better. Don't eat the new cereal an extra day. And he does compare it to Chanukah, which means the Chidah disagreed with Minchas Chinuch, and he believes that back then, really, because of Safek the Rabbanon, they would only have 8 days and not 9 days. Okay, I'm not going too much into reasons now, but that's another shita. Yeah, before we go into the thing. Enough kamina between the Minchas Chinuch and Lamaisa, practically. And I've committed between Birkei Yosef and Minchas Chinuch. Everybody here is looking at me. Okay, times the Beis Hamikdash, that's many years ago. We all believe that Mashiach is coming very soon. So many things show that this is what's going to happen soon. That's enough kamina. I'm not saying that. The Minchas Chinuch says that. Says Minchas Chinuch, when Mashiach will come in Mitzvah Hashem, then we're going to go back to the Kiddush HaChodesh system. You can get rid of your calendar. Maybe you just want to keep the birthdays of the grandchildren. That's cute, right? That's very nice. And your wife's birthday, most important. But outside that, they will actually go back to the natural, so to speak, the organic Kiddush HaChodesh with Eidim, with Beis Din. They will have to run around with Shluchim all over the world until, 2 weeks, and therefore, in future says, and some people will not know when Chanukah really is, says the Minchas Chinuch, and therefore what? And therefore, they will have to have an extra day of Chanukah in future. Mashenkin, according to the Birkei Yosef, the Chidah, no. The Chidah believes no. The Chidah says no. Chanukah is a regular Safek D'Rabbanan, Lekula, and you will never keep it. everybody here is thinking, I'm a mentalist. I'm imagining what you're thinking in your mind. You came to a mentalist show. I imagine people think, what is that? Of course, when Mashiach will come, in half a second, people go online, beisamikdash.com, beisdin.com, .co.il, and they'll see in a second if the Eidim, even with a Zoom, they'll see the Eidim. You're not the only one who think that way. Thanks to Oitzar Chochma, I found a sefer called Nefesh Chaya, Rav Reuven Regolius, and he says like this. I don't know when he lived, but he says, look, today we live in modern times. Hayom yesh telegraph, he says. We have telegraph. Afilu radia. We even have radio, so advanced. We have radio that goes from so advanced radio. My kids don't even know what radio is because they're, they're more advanced than that. But the radio and telegraph, we know it's going to happen. And he says, he adds, who knows what's going to be the new technology, even something even more advanced than radio? Can you imagine? So Mimela goes, the voice goes from one side of the world to the other. He says, in today's generation, we have Chochmah and Mimela, the Kitzur, the whole world, the whole Jewish world, we know in half a second through WhatsApp, or maybe something more advanced, I don't know, that the Beis Din were Mekadesh the Chodesh, and therefore, even if the Minchas Chinuch is right essentially, but technically, everyone will know when the Kiddush HaChodesh was, and therefore, everyone will know when Chanukah is. But conceptually, the Minchas Chinuch says that we don't say Safek D'Rabbanan L'Kula, and if somebody in Antarctica, somebody stuck without Wi-Fi, I don't know, if he doesn't know when Chanukah is, he does have to keep 9 days. Not today, but if it's a real Safek, because he really does know when Kiddush Chodesh took place, he'll have to keep an extra day. Okay, that's the. So these are like 1/2 answers. Okay, they all have to do with Safek D'Rabbanan. Comes another answer now, another answer of the Chidah. And this is exactly the answer given by Reparetz this morning. I just gave a very small promo this morning. Says the Birkei Yosef, wait a second. I think last time I checked, Chanukah is in the 25th of Kislev. Don't get mixed up with a different 25th. It's 25th of Kislev. Okay. And what? And it says in the Gemara in Tainis, the Mishnah, that what? That that the Shluchim would arrive the furthest point, which is 15 days away from Yerushalayim. That means that by the 25th, everybody would know. Everybody actually knew when the Chodesh, when Rosh Chodesh was. So technically speaking, in the times of Beis Hamikdash, that's completely against Minchas Chinuch, big time. Unless you live in, I don't know, an island in Antarctica, I don't know where. So everybody knew already after 15 days. So that's 10 days. You have to be really slow and not in the news. You have to be real recluse not to know after everybody knew when the Rosh Chodesh was, when it was Chanukah. Mimela says the Birkei Yosef that never actually, when do we say, says Birkei Yosef, that we have established the second day business in places in Yomim Tovim when the second day was a real issue back then? We sort of preserved it for future, but Chanukah was never an issue. Chanukah, they always knew when Rosh Chodesh was. They always knew when 25th of Kislev was 25th of Kislev, Chavei Kislev. Mimela, since the issue never started, they never established it as a second day. He says some people disagree. Maybe because they would say, no, because there's still a concept. I'm not going into that right now. Maybe we'll mention it later. But Lamaise says there's no idea to do Chanukah. I will maybe mention, to go a tiny level deeper, he says, it does say though in the Gemara, that there were places that would not know when Rosh Hashanah was. You can't know when Rosh Hashanah is. Obviously, if you live outside Chutzar, somebody can travel on Rosh Hashanah. But on Pesach, there would be places, where they would keep 2 days Rosh Hashanah. Forget about Eretz Yisrael 2 days. I'm not talking about it now. They would have doubts until, let's say, Rosh Hashanah, if Yom Kippur. Maybe on Pesach, they would be okay. Those places do have to keep nowadays 2 days of Pesach. Why? Because Pesach in many places, people didn't know. In some places, they knew. In the Jewish world, in some cities, they knew about the right time of Pesach. Some places they were in doubt. So then we make a blanket establishment all over and we say, that's it. Pesach, yes, no, maybe so, no. If you live in a faraway place, Gendik, no, Pesach is 2 days. But Chanukah, everybody in the Jewish world, each and every person knew when Chanukah is. So there's no reason to establish and freeze something that never actually started. That's the other answer of the Chidah in the Birkei Yosef. Without much pilpulim, that's the answer. Answer number 4. Questions or I continue? I assume you're okay, so I continue. Another answer of the Pri Chodesh, and that has to do with Reb Meir's suggestion. You tell me how many candles, if you light in Chutz La'aretz and you keep 9 days of Chanukah, so how many candles would you have at your table? Your window. Yeah, kind of interesting. I would have the first day is either 1 or 0. I'd have 1. Then the second day I have 2. Really, maybe I should have 1. Okay, I would have 2 and not 1. 1 Chanukiah, okay? But I'm not so sure. I'm lighting 2 candles, but maybe it's really the first day. Then I have 3 candles, but maybe it's the second day. When you lived in Chutz La'aretz, when you said Musaf, right? Every day of Musaf, you have to say Sheni Shlishi Shlishi Revi, right? The Musaf of Chutz La'aretz is like yeah, Sukkot, yeah, you play it. Yeah, I remember that. Okay, all your life almost. Very confused. That's why I made Aliyah, just for that, not to get confused in Muslim. So Mimela says the Pri Chodosh, I'm quoting, Sheyedu bechivun kama hoyo hanes, lo poches velo yoiser. If you have 9 days of Chanukah, right, and on the 9th day you're going to light, that's going to be another issue. Children are going to grow up in an environment that thinks that there were 9 days of Chanukah, which means Chanukah, and this is something more to do with Chanukah itself. This is now getting wider than our shiur. There's a huge difference between Chanukah and Pesach, Chanukah and Pesach and Sukkot. They all have many days, that's true. Pesach and Sukkot, if you put the korbanos of Sukkot on the side, last time I checked, there's no korbanos in Chutz La'aretz, so we're talking about Chutz La'aretz now. So if you have, let's start with Pesach and Sukkot. Pesach and Sukkot are more or less the same thing again and again and again. More matzah, v'chule, what it does to your stomach, get very spiritual. Sukkot, very chassidish, shpizin, simchas b'susheva, once in Chaniche, once in this, Ahavas Shalom. But Lamaisa, Sukkot and Pesach are a repetition of the same thing all the time. Every day is more or less halachically, ashkafically, I'm not talking about Chassidus, is more or less more of the same. Chanukah is not. Chanukah is not about celebrating the same thing for 7 days and get a cycle of 7 days, or 8 days. Chanukah is about 1 candle, 2 candles, 3 candles. As the Gemara says in Shabbos, a famous Gemara, what does the Gemara say? The Shammai and Basil argue whether it's 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? And why? Is it against the days that went out, or the days we're welcoming the days that are coming in? But every day you have to actually symbolize and show that this is the first day of the Nes. And wow, the Nes got bigger. The Rishonim say, and the Nes got bigger, and the Nes got bigger. And it will commemorate a Nes of 8 days, not less and not more. You have to know it's a Nes of 8 days. Says Tosfos, and that's what the Sephardim do, right? Yes. What? How many candles do Sephardi people light following the Tosfos actually? Only the father of the house lights the 8 candles, 1, 2, 3. Why? Because if you have everybody with the Chanukios, with the menorahs, lighting many candles, you can't clearly see the day of the week. A secular person would come to your house, an avrech with 10 sons, the whole place looks like a candle shop, which is very nice. But you can't tell which day of Hanukkah it is. Says Tosfos, you have to know which day of Hanukkah exactly you're holding by. We get along with that. The Ashkenazim get away with it. We separate. We make sure there's space between the menorahs. All I'm trying to say is that on Hanukkah, it's very important to know what day of Hanukkah we're in. In Sukkot, if you don't remember in the 4th or 5th day of Sukkot exactly what it is, you have to see according which amusement park is open to take your kids there. But I'm saying Sukkot is not so significant to know if it's the 4th or 5th day, not halachically, maybe statically, yeah. In Hanukkah, it's extremely important in Hanukkah to know, am I in the 1st, 2nd, 3rd? So a 9th day would actually be another, like, sort of Baltoisif, I would say, an unwanted 9th day. And comes the $1 million question: which candle would I light? Would you light a 9th candle? Chas v'shalom. Then the kids would actually think, and you would think, and the Chiloni cousin for sure would think that there were really 9 candles. And then the whole reform movement is going to start with stupid ashkafis. I don't know what's going to happen from these things. People actually think there was a Nes of 9 days, and it's not true. You're commemorating the wrong way. Are you going to light another one of 8 days? Weird. Then you missed the boat. The boat. Yeah, the whole idea is to add. The Rishonim say you're adding the Nes. You're adding and adding. Chanukah is all about an additional day, not a repetition, but an addition. It's a cumulative. So having again 8 and again 8, you can't have 9th day of Chanukah. It just doesn't work. That is the answer of the Pri Chodosh. Here comes another answer. Unless you have a question, I continue. I'm dangerous. If you don't stop me, I keep driving. Yeah? Okay. Another answer, and that is another answer of the Pri Chodosh. Says the Pri Chodosh. Am I recorded? I hope so. Says the Pri Chodosh. Yes, Baruch Hashem. The Chazal found it extremely important to connect the number 8 to Chanukah, not 7 and not 9, because one, as we all know, one of the gzeres that the Yevonim, one of the decrees, one of the gzeres of the Yevonim was against Bris Milah. And we have to remember that Chanukah has to do with Bris Milah, Dusha, Bris Milah, the holiness of the Jewish nation, Torah, the purity of the Jewish nation is all about the menorah, HaTorah, to look for pure oil. A Jew lives his life in a pure way, which is to do with the Bris Milah. Yeah, we're holy with a holy body, and therefore nothing can change that. So even in the price of getting to spekus and stories and questions, we're willing to go into the suffix, even if he says suffix the Rabbanan is lechumra, let's say, even like Minchas Chinuch, no. We have to keep 8 days because 8 is the number that signifies the Milah, the Chanukah, which are intrinsically connected. That's the 5th answer, by the way. I don't know if you're counting. This is happening before I'd imagine. Now comes the Bnei Sucher, yeah. Comes the Bnei Sucher, and he gives us a more Hasidic, interesting shkafic answer. Thank you for letting me know about this wreath. Very interesting. People who live in Chutz La'aretz, the reason why they have to keep a second day Yom Tov is not just a technical thing. There's also a spiritual message over there. And I'll tell you what the Bnei Socher says. It says as follows. It says, if you check the gematria of the word Yom Tov, the words Yom Tov, and the word Chochmah, I checked it with my calculator carefully. They're both the same gematria, 73. 73. Okay? Try. You can get it in a second, yeah? So 73 is both, which means Yom Tov has to do with Chochmah. So everybody knows the very famous machshavadik idea brought by the Ramchal, if not before, that every Yom Tov is not just, we don't commemorate something that happened in the past, we are getting new energy of that Yom Tov again and again. There's a renewed energy every Pesach of freedom, renewed energy of Hashpos of Torah and Shavuot. Chanukah is Torah Sheba'al Peh. That's one of the major things there. Chanukah is actually the fact that we are in Golus, and the Golus is dark. And Torah Sheba'al Peh, which is the menorah, is the only thing that can keep us alive. There are many beautiful mitzvahs in the Torah, but Torah Sheba'al Peh specifically is what differentiates between us and the Goyim. No Goy has anything to do with the Gemara. I'm saying maybe nothing similar by Goyim to Gemara. In any event, Yom Tov is not just to get the energy of Kedusha, but the Chochmah, the wisdom that is there for every Yom Tov. Every Yom Tov has its own Chochmah, and that can be achieved on the Yom Tov. Mikra Kodesh, Yom Tov called Mikra Kodesh. He brings down a Zohar that says that Kodesh is called Chochmah. Chochmah being of das, Chochmah is the very high sphere. It comes from the holiest place of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Chochmah is above being above das. Chochmah is the source of all intelligence of everything. And therefore it's Kedusha. It's coming from a holy place, from the Eibishter himself. Says Bnei Socher, the Bnei Yisrael have to be muchshar. We have to be a kli. It's very good we're getting this pre-Chanukah mishmar, thanks to the Ahavas Shalom people, because we have to get ourselves to be ready to receive, as a receptacle, to receive that Chochmah and Kedusha of Yom Tov. Where is it easier to get Kedusha and Chochmah? In Eretz Yisrael and Chutz La'aretz? 3 guesses, okay? Wow. That was, stunning. In North Korea, absolutely, no question, but also in Eretz Yisrael. But the Basra Kufnun Ches Amud Beis, there's a debate over there about Yerusha between them. Not debate. There's a machlokes regarding the halachas of Yerusha, mother and the son, they died together. So then it says that Rav Ila, Reb Zera argued with Rav Ila. Reb Zera made Aliyah, moved to Eretz Yisrael, and then he changed his mind, and he agreed with his rival, so to speak, with his Parplukta, and he said, in Chutz La'aretz, I thought this way. Now we moved to Eretz Yisrael, he says the famous line, Avir de Eretz Yisrael machkim. The air in Eretz Yisrael, the Chochmah is in the air. Rav Dessler said, we took him in Chutz La'aretz, it was in Lithuania, in England, in Chutz Rav Dessler himself said that when he moved to Bnei Brak, to Eretz Yisrael, it took him like an hour, I don't remember exactly the minutes, but it took him a long time to understand in Chutz La'aretz. He came to Eretz Yisrael, it took him much quicker. In Eretz Yisrael, not everything here is so easy, but the Chochmah is more available, it's just in the air, the Chochmah, the Torah. Says the Bnei Socher, why did Chachamim, listen to the word, Chachamim are the ones that connect us to Chochmah. Chazal, Chachameinu Zichronim Livrocha, they are the ones who bring Torah from Sinai to us. He says the Chacham is not connected to Sinai, it's not a Chacham. A professor of Talmud is not connected to the Kedusha, to the Chochmah of Sinai. He can be very intelligent, but it's not a Chocham. I don't agree to translate every word. Chacham is not intelligent. Chacham is something above intelligence. It's intelligence with Kedusha coming from a higher source. Chachamein, Zerchonim Locha, gave a gift to the people of Chutz La'aretz. You people in Chutz La'aretz, you are not as Chochmah oriented as Bnei Yisrael. It's not your fault. You have to be there for whatever reason, but the Chochmah is not in the air. So Chachamim are the ones who had to add an extra day for Pesach in New York, Succot in London, Shavuot in Rome, wherever. They had to add an extra day in order to get the connection to Chachamim, to get the Chochmah, so Bnei Chutza should plug into the Yom Tov. Maybe it's the last day, like you got everything, like to sign at the end of the dotted line. Chachamim are coming in to bring you people of Chutz La'aretz, or a lesson to Chochmah, to bring you the Chochmah on silver platter, because they're the Chachamim and they introduce it to you. But on Chanukah and Purim, no need for that. The entire Yom Tov is Chachamim. The entire Yom Tov is an invention, so to speak, as a style of Chachamim. The whole thing is from Chachamim, so they don't have to add the extra day of the Rabbanon. It is the Rabbanon. The whole idea is only the Chochmah of the Chazal connecting us to Sinai with their Chochmah, Bin Avadas, and therefore, Mimela, there's no need for an extra day on Chanukah and Purim, because there you are. The whole thing is the Rabbanon, no need to add the Rabbanon to the Rabbanon. It's miyutar, hashkafically, according to Bnei Sofer. So, regarding Purim, just an addendum, Purim is not so simple. I told you Purim, why don't you have a second day on Purim? You can say Purim is the Rabbanon. Cool, nice. It's not so simple, Purim is the Rabbanon. If you learn Megillah Be'iyun, you'll see more and more, you're gonna, a lot of collisions with this idea. Purim, the concept of Purim could be Doraisa, because Purim is just one day of Hallel, and Hallel is Doraisa maybe. It's not so simple to say it's the Rabbanon. A lot of radar and the Rishonim about it. In other words, the mitzvahs of the Rabbanon, but the day itself to celebrate Purim is possibly Doraisa. And by the way, it's not called Rabbanon, it's called Divrei Soifrim or Divrei Kabbalah. Rambam says Divrei Kabbalah. It is in the Novi, in the Ksuvim. It's not like, Rabbanon woke up after Tanakh, a whole new day called Chanukah. Yeah, therefore, Purim has this very gray area that could be a shiur by itself if it's the rights of the Rabbanon somewhere in between. So you could say Nechnami Purim is the Rabbanon, maybe, and then you don't have a second day. Others say no, it's not such a simple say it's the Rabbanon, so why don't you have a second day? Forget about Yerushalayim. Even if you live in New York, why don't you have a second day? Because it says V'lo Yavo. There's a famous right at the beginning of Megillah. It says, why don't we have an extra? Purim can never be Lo Ya'avo. Can't be past the 14th or 15th, whatever. Whichever day of Purim you have, that is your day of Purim. Yeah, if you live in a place, the whole beginning of Megillah, so you can't have Purim past a certain date. So Mimela, yeah, if you don't live in a walled city and you are celebrating Yudalid, you can't have also Tesvav because you crossed the line. That's just an additional. Yom Kippur. Why don't we have a second day of Yom Kippur? We're already on the roll. Well, first, why not? There would be, I think my dietitian would be happy. Yeah, 2 days of Yom Kippur would do great for me. But, says some Sofer, maybe I saw it quoted, I didn't see it inside some Sofer, but it was quoted the whole piece. He says that to do things, very interesting thing, to do things out of Suffolk, this is something very interesting. It really touched my heart when I read it, because sometimes they have like very machmir, and they do everything in Suffolk, all kinds of combinations to do this and that and the other, or they never make a certain bracha, maybe it's a Suffolk. Says some Sofer, to be in Suffolk is not a good thing. Even though you're covering all grounds, you want to get out of Suffolk, you do this day and that day, you light the menorah here, menorah there, you're trying to cover all grounds. It's not really Ratzon Hashem. Ratzon Hashem is to do things gleich, glatt, in a straightforward way. That's really how Hashem wants it to be. So even though Chutz La'aretz has to have 2 days for the variety of reasons we see here, so you have 2 days of Seder, 2 days of Shvi Shel Pesach, yeah, v'chulei. But Yom Kippur is the day of love. Yom Kippur is the day of Kapara. So for people to stand on Yom Kippur in New York or wherever, LA, in London, and have 2 days of Yom Kippur, forget about it, they can fast for 48 hours, but to have a Yom Tov of Yom Kippur of Kapara and feel both days are a suffix, that's not nice. It's not good to be, I'm standing in a day, I don't know, is it 9 or 10, 11? It's not a gleich, good, lechatchila way to come to Hashem and purify yourself. When you come to purify yourself, you have to be lechatchila. Maybe it's not the right day, lo noa. But you have to behave in a way that is kivyochol the one and unique day of Yom Kippur, the Yevin year. So says some Sefer. Hopefully, I didn't misquote him. Maybe we have a very lichtige Chanukah. I'm sorry, I didn't have any jokes or stories or interesting things. It was maybe it was dry. But let's just summarize. Let's summarize. Your question, Rabbi, summarize. So how many answers did we have? Let's see. It's not a test. It's okay. Yeah. So first of all, let's see if I remember. So first of all, we have the two Darabonans, right? Let's do the Minchas Chinuch alone for a minute. Let's talk about what you do if you live in Timbuktu today, 2021, Tafshin Teves. So what do you do? Minchas Chinuch is not about today. So what do we do? Well, no second day, no ninth day of Chanukah. Because why? Because Darabanan. Whichever we look at it, two Darabanan, too much. That's answer number one, generally speaking, right? What else did we have? Let's remember. We also said that on the 20th, that Chanukah was never ever celebrated as a ninth day. Why? Because the shluchim of Beis, the messengers always reached everywhere before the 25th day. So they never had to doubt. Everybody lived close enough. Yeah, nobody lived in Japan, I guess. Everybody lived close enough to know. So if Chanukah never was second day, why should you start it now? There's no idea to continue something never started, right? That's a Birkei Yosef. A third one, Reb Meir, very nice. Yeah, the Pri Chodesh says, what kind of candle are you going to light on the ninth day? No, Chanukah has to have 8 days only. You're commemorating a nes, your dafka. It's not a Yom Tov. It's 8 days of nisim growing to remember exactly how he was. Not 7, not 9, and not 7.5. That's it. It has to be 8 days. Not 9. Not 9. No, 7, 8 days. Yeah, sorry. 8 days, and that's it. Not more nor less. That's an ace. Now, what else did we say? We have to remember Bris Milah. Bris Milah, last time I checked, 8th day. 8th day. That's it. So Mimela, you have to remember Milah, Kedusha, Torah Sheba'al Peh. It's all to do against the Greek. The Greek were against Bris Milah. What did they want? Tuma. They wanted to defile us, to make us impure. That was the whole idea. We fight against it 8 days. Yeah, and that's it. No more nor less. And the Bnei Yisachar says, the Rabbanon, the whole idea of Chutz La'aretz is to gain the extra day of Kedusha and Chutz La'aretz, to gain the Chochmah, they would tap you into the Yom Tov. That's the Yom Tov D'Oraisa. You need Chochmah besides that to add. But if the entire day is Chochmah, no need to add another Chochmah for that. The whole business is Chochmah of Chazal to begin with, so there's no need for anything else. So these are the answers, Bekitzer. Mr. Brown, I want to hear your beautiful voice. Yeah. Mm-hmm. The shiur is over. May you have a very good Chanukah. Thank you very much. Bye.